talking about only one thing, the pressure they were feeling in school. And it was off the charts. I can't do it, the work's too hard, they're asking too much from me, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. At the same time, I started getting a ton of referrals of younger children, mostly third and fourth graders, 8 and 9-year-olds, bedwetting, sleeping with their parents, afraid of the dark, school refusal, belly aches, the Sunday night tummy ache, the Monday morning tummy ache, won't get on the bus, and guess what else? Self-mutilating. I heard about a 6-year-old who scratches the skin off of his face when he does his homework. Why? All right, is it the testing? The testing is a problem. The testing is a whopping monumental problem. But we have a bigger problem, and it's called Common Core. And the Common Core standards are asking your children to do what they cannot do, what they are biologically and physically incapable of doing. As Terry said, you can't look at a 4-month-old and say, what? Okay? You also can't look at an 8-year-old and say, think critically. Asking an 8-year-old to think critically is like asking a fish to fly. Children do not think critically or in the abstract. Children don't think critically or in the abstract at all. Adults think critically in the abstract. That comes in with the development of the child's prefrontal cortex, which develops over the course of their life and doesn't really fully form until about the age of 24. So when you're asking an 8-year-old to grow wings, little fish start flying, they turn it on themselves and they blame themselves and they call themselves stupid. I always say it's like asking a fish to fly. Einstein and I have something in common. He believes in fish too. And he says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. Einstein was a pretty smart guy, never studied under the Common Core. The standards are developmentally inappropriate. The legislators, all I keep hearing is it's the implementation, it's the implementation. They keep saying, I'm tired of hearing them say it's the implementation. They're probably tired of hearing us say the standards are developmentally inappropriate. We're like at an impasse here, okay? Let me give you a classic example of how dangerous it is to believe that a young child can think critically and think in the abstract, and then also transfer, like, if I learn this concept here, I'm gonna apply it everywhere else. Okay, so it's like if I teach a child fractions, they're gonna be able to understand that it's just like decimals. That's the thinking. That's the thinking that these educrats who created Common Core believe. So, I used to teach a stranger danger class, K through 3-ish, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. And I'd show a film called Stranger Danger. And in the film, they'd show all these vignettes of a perpetrator setting up a child for abduction. They would show the man pulling up in the car saying, oh, your mother's in the hospital, you get in the car, all those things. I have a puppy, you want to come see my puppy? All those things that would be used to lure a child. And every scene was a male perpetrator in the film. So I used to process the film with my kids and say, so if man pulls up to you in the car and says, get in, your mother's in the hospital, what do you do? No, it's a stranger, it's a stranger. Man says he has a puppy in his house, no, it's a stranger, it's a stranger. What if it's a woman? Every one of those children would have gotten in that car. Every single one. So when they tell you that an 8 or 9 or 7 or 5 or 2-year-old child can think in the abstract, they're wrong. The Common Core is the equivalent of putting your child on the street with that female perpetrator asking them to come see the puppy. That's what you got in the schools, folks. They're asking your children to learn more about less. Deeper thought about less material. We have Jason Zimbo, one of the architects of the Common Core, on tape saying, yeah, they're going to be college and career ready. Not really the colleges that their parents aspire for them to go to. But they'll go to some college. use your handout for a second. This is a fabulous handout about the data mining. One minor mistake. Anthony is never going to be a mechanical engineer. Anthony is never going to Stanford, because Jason Zimba says it right there on that video. They're not going to Stanford. He says it on the video. So, Common Core, not so hot. One of the reasons they gave us the Common Core is they say, well, our kids are not globally competitive with other countries like China. How are the children in China? Guess who has one of the highest youth suicide rates on earth? China. Children in China drive themselves to excel because they don't want to bring shame upon their parents and on their families. Not because they're driven to learn and become something and succeed, but because there will be great shame and honor will be removed from their families. There were 3 little girls in China about a year or so ago, 10 and 11 years of age, couldn't finish their homework. So they took a day off from school and spent the whole day working on that homework. 10 and 11 years old. Worked and worked and worked all day, and guess what? They couldn't finish their homework. So you know what they did? They linked hands and jumped off the roof of a building. Fortunately, they survived, but one little girl, when she was interviewed, said, I figured if I was dead, I'd never have to do homework again. Is that what we aspire to? Do we want to be more like China? If your children are doing well, and they're, you know, a lot of kids are, thank God, I'm really happy to hear that. But in September, we roll out Common Core Science. How many kids don't do well in science? Next generation. I think New York is the first, because we're always on the cutting edge of wrong here. And I still have to ask if your kids are doing okay. Like Jorella said, how many is it okay for you to have not be doing okay? Because a lot of kids are really suffering with this. People ask me all the time, if the kids getting better? Yeah, my kids are. They're in therapy. You know? But how many kids aren't? You know? It's terrible. And Terry, you talk about the teachers. I've heard about, I don't know, 6 or 7 different buildings of late where more than half of the teachers are on medication. I constantly bash APPR and tying testing to teacher ratings, because the teachers are being rated on variables that they have no control over. There are a lot of things that go into how a kid performs on the test. The teachers are a huge part of it. I'm sitting in my office the other day, and I can't talk about my own clients, but I'm in the waiting room, and a client of another colleague of mine is fielding a text message from their child at like 11 o'clock in the morning. They're texting their kid in school. I'm like, all right, well, I wanted to tell her that, you know, I'm going to pick her up after school. Well, couldn't that wait till, I don't know, after school? Or call the office or something like that. They're texting, they're tweeting, they're up till 1,000,000 o'clock in the morning. These kids are going to bed with the phone under the covers. They're tweeting each other in class. We've got a drug problem, we've got a cyberbullying problem. We have a huge sexting problem in middle schools. But this is not going to affect how they do on exams, right? So we got to hold that all over the teachers' heads. Well, my teachers are suffering terribly. I see a lot of teachers, not because teachers are any worse than anybody else in the mental health realm, but because I'm a post-CCAP provider, so that's the only reason why I see so many teachers. The teachers are suffering terribly along with the children. A lot of people ask me, what can you do for your kids? Well, I can't speak specifically about your own children if they're struggling. It would be irresponsible to me as a therapist. I'm going to talk to you what you can do for your children, not directly. Number 1, opt them out of the exams. That is a gift you give your children, because this monster we call Common Core, it thrives on data. And if we don't take the exams, we cut off the food supply, and it will starve to death. So you opt them out of the exams if for anything else to attack the Common like the 8929, which doesn't even talk about the curriculum, and it backdates to the beginning of this year, the 2 years that it was supposed to give us to untie the testing and to stop the data uploads, goes back to last September. So really what you're getting is 1 year, because your kids have already suffered this year with the testing. And by the way, the kids are still taking the tests under that legislation. They're not listening. So refuse the tests. They'll listen to that. That they can hear. The other thing you can do, I'm going to talk about another piece of legislation. You mentioned the RA/Zeldin bills. I started to talk, like, remember A Beautiful Mind when we started talking in numbers? 7994, 8884, 8929. Oh my God, 6604. Somebody mentioned the bill came like, what the hell is that one? I don't remember that bill. There's a piece of legislation in the Senate and the House that gives us a 3-year moratorium on Common Core. It stops everything. And it impanels 23 people who are not the Cuomo stacked deck pro Common Core panel, incidentally, to review the Common Core and stop it, fix it, or scrap it, as Joe Rella always says. And that the Assembly piece was attached to Kathy Nolan's bill as a hostile amendment, was voted down in the Assembly, but the bill 6604, Lee Zeldin's bill, is still live in the Senate. And if you can do anything for your children, you need to get on your senator and make it known that we want that bill passed. We were outside Senator Flanagan's office on Friday. We gave him a little visit, about 80 of us in Bullhorn. And while we were there, he did send down a message to us saying that there will be no companion to 8929. The data language in 8929 is fantastic. It actually makes a great amendment back onto 6604 if they want to do it that way. But get on your senator. Well, that's where we're at right now. We're focusing on the Senate. We still need to focus on the Assembly as well. Call your assemblyman, call your senator. We want Common Core stopped in New York. Call the governor. I get up every morning. Want to know the first thing I do every morning? I get up every morning. I'll wait till 9 o'clock. I call the governor. Hi, it's Mary again. I don't have to call my assemblyman because he happens to be Al Graff. But I do send an email every day to the entire Assembly and the entire Senate because I just have them all grouped together and it's easier. The other night, thank God, I learned a few things in this movement. I've learned how to use PowerPoint. I've learned how to make a video. And I've learned how to robocall. You know? So the other night I was managed to call 141 assemblymen in 5 minutes. So make the calls. I work very closely with a lot of elected officials, and they will tell you when the phone rings, they listen.
The time is now 8:30. The library will be closing promptly at 9.
Thank you.
All library services will end at that time, including checkout and copier service.
They do
being
freak
picked up,
out when the
contact your
phone
rep.
rings. So make that happen. And if you go to this website, www.fixnyschools.com, please go on there and sign the petition to get 8844 and 6604 passed. That's the Zeldin Ra legislation with the 3-year moratorium. Every time, it's just like It's a Wonderful Life. Every time you sign the petition, the governor gets an email. And they do hear that. They do. This is an election year, folks. Put the pressure on. You got to make it happen. And just in short, for your children, the message constantly has to be: you are not your test scores. You are not your school performance. You are, just a beautiful, loving brother, sister, son, daughter, whatever else they do. Let's please focus on their strengths and not their weaknesses. Thank you.